housekeeping and logistics. Nancy and Fung An will describe how translation will work for attendees tonight.
Hi, yes. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome. We have interpretation available. We encourage monolingual English speakers to select the English language option to be able to hear any interpretation from Spanish to English or Vietnamese to English. And you'll see the instructions in a few minutes once we are done giving the instructions, and we'll go ahead and include them in the chat as well for you. Anyway, to access the interpretation, once it's activated, you'll click on the globe at the bottom of your screen, and you'll select language interpretation, English, and to finalize your option, you'll click done. Now, if you're using a cell phone, you'll see 3 little dots at the bottom of your screen. You'll click on those, select the language interpretation, English, and done. Thank you. Hola a todos, bienvenidos. Tenemos la interpretación en español disponible. Va a ver las instrucciones en el chat y también después de que demos estas instrucciones. Bueno, cuando se active la interpretación, usted tendrá que seleccionar un idioma, la cual es español. Va a haber un globo al fondo de la pantalla. Si está usando una computadora, y usted tendrá que seleccionar idioma, español, y done o finalizar, y silenciar el audio original. Si está usando un celular, verá 3 puntitos abajo de la pantalla. Seleccione interpretación, español y done. Gracias. Okay, Fang, you can go ahead and give your instructions.
Xin chào, kính thưa tất cả quý vị. Khi quý vị tham dự chương trình này thì có chức năng phiên dịch bằng tiếng Việt sẽ cung cấp cho quý vị. Và nếu quý vị là song ngữ và muốn chọn tiếng Việt thì có thể lựa chọn nhìn xuống phía dưới. Quý vị sẽ có cái chức năng Interpretation. Hãy bấm vào cái biểu tượng hình quả địa cầu, sau đó chọn Interpretation để mà có thể lựa chọn tiếng Việt. Và nếu quý vị có thể dùng máy điện thoại di động thì quý vị nhìn xuống cuối màn hình có dấu 3 chấm, hãy bấm vào dấu 3 chấm đó để chọn chức năng Interpretation và sau đó lựa chọn tiếng Việt. Lúc đó quý vị có thể nghe được phiên dịch toàn bộ chương trình này qua tiếng Việt cho quý vị. Xin cảm ơn. Thank you.
Hi, Albert. If you can go ahead and activate our interpretation, that would be great. Thank you.
Perfect. One moment. All right. Interpretation should be active. And just a quick call that for those following along in Spanish or Vietnamese, you can go, if you're just joining, please go to the interpretation icon that you see, click it, and select your language. Also, even if you are speaking English, please select the language that, please select English. That way, in case anything is interpreted in a different language to you, you can have it. And Kristen will provide in the chat a link to this same PowerPoint deck in both Spanish and Vietnamese, which you should be able to access through there. And with that, we will get started. All right, let's just make sure everyone has the interpretation icon.
Not me, Chidon.
Let me make sure. And perfect. Okay, she should be in. And we are ready to go.
Albert, you want to advance one slide? All right, very cool. So good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Rob Floyd, I'm the Deputy City Manager for the city, and I oversee transportation, aviation, and technology. We're actually here to discuss traffic safety cameras in San Jose. And we're going to ask for your honest feedback and engagement tonight because we honestly need your help. And sensing technologies both will play an important role in responsive and efficient services. And it's also a matter of taking care not to go too far with the promises of technology. So you get to talk with a range of really good people today, from the doers and officers to the police command staff to city executives. And we're here because this is a very important topic to us. And it's important that we get this right long term, because digital privacy is more about people than the technology that we're going to work with. And this session is the start of an ongoing conversation with the community. The reach of sensing technologies continues to grow, as everyone knows. Cameras is just one use. And we have to have legitimate safety uses, but also need to be careful and responsible with what these tools can allow us to do. The city is working to strike an important balance, driven by principles, by practical use to solve problems, and wanting to create checks and balances so that we make sure that we're always being responsible in that use. So with that, our city's digital privacy officer, Albert Gahami, will help us dive into today's session. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rob. And thank you everyone again for being here. My name is Albert Gahami. I am the city's digital privacy officer, and it's my job to make sure that the data that we collect is used to support our communities, that residents understand what is being collected, why, and how to engage with us for a safer, smarter, more equitable city. And how we think about this in three ways. Really to invest in the trust and privacy for today so that we can have safer communities for all tomorrow. It starts with engaging you all, the residents, and engaging city staff, engaging privacy experts to make sure that we find the right balance between using technology and securing people's privacy. We take that information, we learn from all the sources we can, including things like this, to ultimately serve our residents better. Residents, including myself, Rob, and many others on this call. I've been in the Bay Area for about a decade now, and I'm lucky enough to call San Jose both the place that I live and the place that I work. And while the recent heat waves have been testing me, and especially since I don't have air conditioner, I am happy to call this place home, and I want to do everything that I can. We all want to do everything that we can to provide the safest, most comfortable home as possible. Today, specifically, we are going to be talking about some of the efforts that are happening with traffic safety, data collection to improve the safety at intersections and throughout our streets. Specifically, we are going to be talking about a technology called automated license plate readers. At the intersection of Monterey and Kirtner, down here in San Jose, we have had about 3 fatal hit and run accidents in 2021 with no responsible suspect. In response to this, the council has directed us to install automated license plate reader, or ALPR cameras, at the intersection to help identify vehicles as they pass for criminal investigations and ultimately to try and reduce the amount of accidents and other crimes that are happening around there. The camera looks like what you see on your screen here. It looks like roughly the size of a smartphone, black. And through this conversation, I want to make sure that we all understand what it is, why we're installing it, and how we can all be a part of this conversation together. So we'll get started by explaining a bit around what this technology is and how it actually does serve to reduce traffic crashes, increase traffic safety, and support investigations. The way the technology works is every time a car passes by the intersection, it takes a picture of the back of the vehicle and the license plate. This picture that you see here is actually a picture from one of our cameras. We use that picture to then read the license plate, and we can get a little bit of information about the car itself to be able to check if the plate of that vehicle, if that vehicle was stolen, if it's part of an Amber Alert, or if it's a part of other ongoing investigations from a particular criminal list. Through this, we are able to help support police with investigations around crimes that are happening in our area. And on top of that, we are installing signage in the areas where these cameras are being installed so that people are aware that they are there, and also in the effort to deter traffic accidents, reckless driving in the area. There is research out there that has shown that these cameras have helped with investigations. I'll give an example in the city of Vallejo, where they were able to see over 100% increase in identifying stolen vehicles, thanks to the ALPR cameras. And we have also seen some research showing that by having cameras present on top of signage or signs that tell people that those cameras are there does help reduce crimes and traffic crashes in the area. All of this is really to the point of deterring, investigating, to ultimately create safer communities for all of us. So that is what the technology does. And I want to make clear that the ALPR technology has been in use by police departments for decades now, mostly mounted on top of a police vehicle. I can say that the city of San Jose has had a handful of police vehicles with cameras mounted on them before, but this is the first installment of stationary ALPR cameras. And I want to explain to you how we're using all ALPR moving forward. So, what is the purpose for ALPR? One, again, to support investigations, respond to critical issues like Amber Alerts, Silver Alerts, find stolen vehicles, ultimately deter reckless driving and other forms of criminal or dangerous activity, and for Department of Transportation to help enforce parking limits, which I can explain more a little bit later on in this conversation. How the city will not use ALPR. We are not using it, and it cannot be used to profile someone by their race, skin tone, or any other physical characteristics. If I go back to that picture that you saw taken from an ALPR camera, it's taking a picture of a vehicle, and it is only looking at the license plate itself. We are not taking pictures of people, and rarely, if ever, do the pictures contain a person in them. We are not using the information to investigate any immigration status or anything related to immigration. We are not using the information to monitor people. We are not looking in private spaces. This is only on public roads and public intersections. And we are not using this to automate traffic tickets. I want to make that very clear because a lot of Zoom registers or registrants asked a question about whether or not this can be used for automated red light passing or automated speeding. And the fact is that is not what these cameras can do, and that is not the purpose of these cameras. That type of technology and that type of usage is a different use entirely with different technology. Additionally, these cameras, anytime they read a license plate, if it shows a hit or that a car is part of an active investigation, that picture must be manually checked by a police officer authorized and trained to use the ALPR system to make sure that the technology read it correctly, read the license plate correctly before taking any action. Additionally, how is ALPR used for parking? And this is where Department of Transportation comes in. We have two elements of parking where ALPR is used. One is for timed locations, basically to check if a vehicle has been parked in a signed area for more than the allotted or allowed time. For example, if the car was parked in this area for more than 2 hours, being able to track that, make sure cars are not staying at an intersection or a curb or other parking spot for longer than allowed. Along with that, in parking lots to see the car comes in and then to automate the car being able to come out. Hopefully without having to reach in and try and put in the ticket, which I can speak from experience can be a bit of a hassle sometimes. I want to make clear that this is only reviewed for parking status. It does not check for any criminal lists, and again, does not check for anything related to immigration or any of the other uses that we prohibited and talked about in the last slide. Also, just as a side note, I see we have one question in the Q&A, and I want to make sure that we address people's questions. We will do that at the end of the presentation. Please feel free to continue adding questions, but we will address them at the end. So where are stationary ALPR cameras installed for San Jose Police Department? And the answer is one intersection right now. That is the pilot intersection at Monterey and Kirtner. And I want to make very clear that the city of San Jose is taking a careful and thoughtful approach to installing this technology in our city. We are looking at this intersection, piloting other intersections as we hear need in the community and as police understands need in the community, and measuring and seeing how useful it is for our police and for reducing risks around traffic areas. You will know where these cameras are, where they will be, by two ways. One, you will see signs in the area where we have installed stationary or ALPR cameras that are at an intersection. So say on a light post, for example. Again, right now, the only place where that is at the Monterey and Kirtner intersection. Additionally, we have a handful of patrol cars that have ALPR cameras mounted on top of them to support officers while they are in their patrols. You can see those cameras and they look just like this. So this is the conversation or the story that I have to help and tell you today, but how can you stay a part of this conversation moving forward? There's a few ways that we are going to provide updates to you, our residents, and everyone as this technology and the pilot develops. One, we will have an annual reporting of ALPR's usage, accuracy, and effectiveness made public annually to report on how this pilot is going for us and if it is providing a good use for our communities. Two, if there's any audits conducted either at the direction of council or by myself or someone else in the city, those audit findings can be published and made available so that people can see what we see. After removing, of course, private information. Three, we have our transparency portal, which you can access at any time for real-time live updates on how much the technology is being used today. And I will just ask if someone from PD is able to potentially put the link to that, the transparency portal, in the chat at some point during this meeting. I think that could be great just so people can see it. And lastly, I want to say that this, as Rob said, is the beginning of many conversations in outreach. We've already had a number of conversations at local neighborhood association meetings talking about this, explaining this. We're having this live Zoom session specifically about ALPR technology for traffic safety, but technology doesn't stop here, and we want to continue having these conversations about what innovation the city is talking about or planning so that we can all benefit from that innovation together. So who can access the data that these cameras collect? And I want to make clear that the data that they collect are only those pictures that you see that I showed you earlier in the presentation. It's just a picture, no video. It's a picture of the car with the license plate. Who can access this data? One, first and foremost, is trained San Jose Police Department staff. San Jose Police Department has a specific training to authorize officers in order to access the ALPR system so that they can then look into it. And I want to make very clear, they still cannot access it for any time whenever they want. Any time that someone from San Jose Police Department accesses the ALPR system, they have to input a reason, the specific plates they're looking for, and all of that information is logged so that we can keep track of how many times it's being used, what it's being used for. Two, in an effort to make sure that we can do the best job that we can, and our police department can, sharing this information with neighboring law enforcement agencies local to us so that we can work together with them on investigations that go across jurisdictions. And there's already examples of situations where this has happened, whether it be a string of robberies that have been able to be caught because of sharing ALPR information across jurisdictions or across cities, or other cases. This has been invaluable for police officers, and we can do this sharing in a way that they follow the same protocols or approaches that we do with our data when they access our data. And again, we can track and monitor whenever they access San Jose ALPR data as well. Additionally, city staff that are allowed to audit and inspect this information. So that includes the digital privacy officer, myself, and if we get direction from city council. Who cannot access this information? One, federal law enforcement. The only agencies that we are sharing this information with are local. They're within the state of California. We are not sharing this with federal or outside of the state. We are also not sharing this data with vendors. Even the vendors that we are working with do not have access to our pictures or our cameras, except in the event of a brief maintenance. We also are not selling the information. We are not using it for any purposes beyond what we've outlined here for you today. I just want a quick run through a few of the other questions we heard. And I want to thank you all for submitting all these questions when you registered for the Zoom chat. We had a bunch of questions, and we've tried to answer a few of them throughout the presentation, but hopefully we can answer a few more of them right here. One, how long is the data stored? For police, it is stored for a year. This is the guidance that we got from our legal team as required. So we are keeping it for a year. And we are keeping the parking ALPR data for that DOT is using for roughly a day, 36 hours. And the data will be kept longer if there is a citation or an investigation that includes that information. How much do the cameras cost? The cameras themselves cost, including maintenance, data, access to the software, at least for the police department. The stationary cameras that we're talking about are costing roughly $2,800 a year. And this covers everything from maintenance to install. And while that in and of itself might be a substantial amount of money, it's worth pointing out that that is a small amount relative to the cost it would take to have an officer or other police presence at an intersection 24/7. That would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we had a few questions about what's the, is the city of San Jose making revenue off of the parking citations or off of the ALPR? The real value for us is coming from being able to use these cameras rather than having to have something like, say, an officer there to monitor an intersection when a lot of hit and runs or other major accidents are happening at late night, 2 a.m. Where is the funding coming from? The pilot is being funded by the city, and we have worked with additional outside funds that are supporting potential explorations in further piloting. And will the cameras require updated traffic lights? No, these are installed on the traffic poles, but they do not require any type of updated traffic light. So, last thing I want to say, how can you stay involved? One, and I can't recommend this enough, follow the annual reporting that we're doing. San Jose, while we have seen some impact of the ALPR cameras, stationary ALPR cameras from other jurisdictions, and we have had experience with them mounted on our police vehicles, we are in a pilot scenario. We are in a pilot testing phase for these stationary cameras, and we're learning just as much as you all are about how valuable they are to the city. So we're going to be reporting on that progress annually. If you want to ask me any questions or you have any concerns or comments about this or any other technology, you can reach me directly at digitalprivacy@sanjoseca.gov. You can also provide any comments on our city's website, sanjoseca.gov/digitalprivacy, provide more information on this and other initiatives that we have reviewed and looked over. Additionally, you can talk to your police rep if you want to discuss about where these are being used, what you're interested in. Police representation is usually at most neighborhood association meetings, so you can usually find them there. And join future outreach sessions like this one and ones coming after it. Really, to hopefully continue this conversation to set our city's future as we use technology to provide better, more effective services to you all, while at the same time respecting privacy. And now I will turn it over to our broader team who is here along with myself to answer questions throughout that we're getting through the Q&A and throughout the chat. So thank you so much. I will pass it over to Rob to start introducing the CMO, and we'll go on to questions.
Thank you very much, Albert. So from the city manager's office here at the city, we have myself, a deputy city manager, and also Kristen Van Clay. Kristen, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm the Deputy Public Information Officer for the City Manager's Office of Communications. Thank you.
Cool. And then Ed, do you want to take over for the police department?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks. So my name is Ed Schroeder. I am Deputy Chief of Police. I'm the executive officer. I work out of the Office of the Chief. With us today as well from the police department is Judy Tarico. She's a Deputy Director of the Bureau of Technical Services. I also have Frank Ruba. He is the Division Manager who's in charge of the Crime Data Intelligence Center. And they're the unit that will be overseeing these camera projects. And we also have Captain Carlos Acosta. He is a patrol captain. He is assigned to the Central Division. So we're all here today to answer any questions you might have. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. And then Khaled, would you like to introduce the IT staff?
Thank you, Rob. Khaled Tawfiq, I'm the Chief Information Officer. And with me from the Information Technology Department, I have Marcelo Peredo. He's our Chief Information Security Officer. And the next one is Arti Bengari. She's our Equity through Data Lead. And last but not least, Albert Gahami is our Digital Privacy Officer.
Thank you. And Talin from Department of Transportation.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for joining us, everybody. My name is Colin Haney. I'm the Public Information Manager with the Department of Transportation.
All right, back to you, Albert.
Thank you, Rob. And Kristen, I know you've been monitoring the chat or the Q&A, so please feel free to bring up questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them, or I'll direct them to the department that should.
Sounds great, Albert. Thank you. It does look like we do have quite a few questions, so I'll just run through them all. First one is, if a third party is being contracted to install and collect the data, please speak to the entire procurement process on how a vendor will be selected.
So I will pass this over to PD since they are the ones doing the procurement of this.
Yeah, thank you, Albert. So again, this is Ed Schroeder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to decide who is best to answer these questions, as I imagine most questions are probably going to be directed towards us. So in this case, this would be Division Manager Frank Karuba.
Good evening, everyone. So to answer to that question, yeah, the city requires us to follow very strict protocol rules. The city has its own rules. The municipal code also guides the procurement process. It involves writing a scope of project, which includes some requirements that we're looking for, a scoring process, and a panel of people that evaluate all the vendors that apply. So this is publicized, and any vendor that believes that they have a product that meet our requirements, submit a procurement request, and it follow that protocol.
Thank you, Frank.
Next question. What was the span when the 3 fatalities occurred at Monterey and Kirtner?
Yes,
Like
thank you.
span of time, dates.
Yes, thank you. I do not know the exact dates, but I can say that was all within the course of the last year, 2021. I'll pass it off if someone wants to give something more specific.
Albert, this is Colin with the Department of Transportation. I can say we had 2 fatalities at that intersection in April of 2021, and we had 1 in July of 2021.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. The next question is related to SJPD vacancies, and why not spend the funding on hiring extra staff first?
Pass it off, Dad.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that is a very good question. You know, we're constantly doing what we can to try to increase our numbers. We do have some staffing issues, but we've had them for quite some time. Albert had mentioned ultimately that even the cost of one officer, as compared to the value of the cameras, the cost of the camera, you know, we wouldn't station an officer specifically in this particular area. So we look at the cameras as a force multiplier, really to use as a tool to help us do our job. And these cameras are in a place where we don't necessarily have to be yet. We still can do follow-up and solve these crimes based on the information we get from the cameras. So extra staffing would be nice, but realistically, you know, the city has given us what they can afford to give us, and we're doing the best with what we have. So we're looking at technology to help provide that force multiplier.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quick reminder to all the panelists to slow down a little bit so that our interpreters are able to keep up. Next question is, when will this switch over to speeding ticket cameras? Is there any connection between speeding ticket cameras and the ALPR cameras that we currently have?
Great question, Kristen. And I can give a brief answer, and then Ed, I'll pass it over to you. But first and foremost, automated speeding ticket cameras are illegal in the state of California as of now. They cannot be installed. This does not automatically enforce anything like traffic infractions. It's used to support police investigations, and if there is any point in time where a police officer or where the camera automatically picks something up, which in this case is not speed, It is not running a red light. It is exclusively if it is part of an active investigation. The term hot list is used to say a vehicle that's part of an active investigation, such as stolen. It only checks for that, and even then, that needs to be manually checked by a police officer before any action can be taken. I'll pass it over to you, Ed.
Yeah, thank you, Albert. I think an easy answer to that question would be, as Albert mentioned, these specific cameras are not equipped to deal with red light violations, number one. We don't have the authority to install those type of cameras at the moment, as Albert mentioned, it's not in California, they're not being used, and specifically in San Jose, they're not being used for red lights. And ultimately, we only use the cameras that we currently have to further investigations. We are not dealing with traffic infractions through use of these cameras.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question, why has no outreach been done to communities that live near San Jose community centers?
Great question. So I can speak to the in-person outreach that has happened so far. We have done outreach at the Pokoway neighborhood, Cadillac and Winchester, Foxdale, Round Table, and tomorrow we'll be doing an additional neighborhood association meeting outreach at John. And these are all neighborhoods you see across East San Jose, South San Jose, and West San Jose that have been, among others, show a high risk for the exact type of crimes and traffic incidents that we're trying to prevent here. So this is not to say that that is an exhaustive list. There are 1 million people that live here, and to reach everyone is going to take time. We want to continue these types of conversations ongoing, more in person, more remote like this.
Thank you. Has the city already seen an impact from the cameras detected on Monterey and Kirtner?
PD?
Yes, I will turn that over to Frank Karuba. He can give a couple of quick examples of the fact that we have had some success stories already.
Yes, thank you. Just this week, matter of fact, we've had two great success stories. One is a robbery, an armed robbery was solved using the Monterey and Kirtner cameras, and a shooting suspect was arrested for a shooting that took place in July based upon the vehicle that he was driving, and it was associated with the shooting. That was solved this week as well using the Monterey and Kirtner cameras. So that's just two just this week.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, can we get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation? And the answer is yes to that. I don't know if anyone has it available to put in the chat right now. If not, we can organize that by the end of the call, I'm sure. Next question. By when, where, and how many more cameras will be installed?
I will pass this to PD.
Can I please ask you to repeat the question?
By when, where, and how many more cameras will be installed?
Got it. Thank you. So those are all actual tricky questions. The when part of it is we have another set of these cameras that are going to be going out, I would imagine, within the next 2 to 3 months, let's say. The exact locations have yet to be finalized. Those particular cameras will be placed in neighborhoods where we have incidents or high incidents of gun-related crimes. So it's specific to really severely affected neighborhoods with violent crime. Ultimately, we're thinking there will be anywhere from up to maybe 150 additional cameras, maybe a few more at some point by the time we're done with the projects and the installations. That's a pretty rough estimate, but there are a significant number of cameras, additional cameras that we are looking to install throughout the city.
Thank you. Can you describe the City of San Jose's current relationship with LexisNexis data collection and with Lexis Corp products in general?
So I will pass this to Rob if he'd like to provide any quick answer, but this is a broader conversation that I think we can have a separate time, or if you have specific concerns, send them straight to digitalprivacy@sanjoseca.gov, just to keep the focus of this conversation on the traffic safety cameras.
Yeah, and I'll start, but police will want to weigh in on this one. So there are two, to answer the second part of the question first, there are two uses of LexisNexis that I know of. One is in our city attorney's office, their law software. And then I believe we also have Cop Logic, or did at one point. So we do have those two products. For everyone's reference, LexisNexis is in some hot water because of some sale of their data. So the question relates to who they sold it to is the city, then by extension exposing itself through their practices. But on the city attorney's software, no, it's a lookup software and records piece. And there's terms in there that's our information. I'll leave Cop Logic to Ed and probably Judy, I'm guessing.
Yes, thank you, Rob. I will turn it over to Judy for our answer from the PD.
Thank you, Ed. Rob, yes, you're correct. For the police department, we are using Cop Logic for the online crime reporting for us, and that's the only platform that we have right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. What company is managing these cameras?
I'll pass this off to PD.
Yeah, Frank, if you could.
Sure. The cameras at the Monterey intersection are Flock cameras. The name of the company is Flock Safety, F-L-O-C-K.
Thank you. Will an ALPR access, usage, and data retention policy be in place before any trial fixed location installment is done? Where can we view this policy?
Yes. Great question. So I am posting in the chat right now our San Jose digital privacy page. And there, among other things that you can see, is the draft data usage protocol. That's the term that we use, but you can call it an access, usage, and data retention policy if you would like. It is up there along with a bunch of other reviews that we have done. I want to point out that the Monterey and Kirtner pilot cameras have been installed, and we did a privacy impact assessment on those cameras specifically, which you can also find on the webpage that I just posted. Given the urgency and the initiative that we had from council to make sure that that intersection was covered due to the risk of life that we saw at the intersection. The draft data usage protocol that you see on there, I want to make clear that is just a draft that we are updating, and you will see the final version when it is presented and recommended to City Council for them to review and approve in September.
Thank you. What objective criteria or measures will decide whether the program is successful and should be continued, expanded, or taken down?
So I can speak very briefly to a general, and then I'll pass it over to PD. But at the end of the day, the goal is to have something that supports our communities and helps improve the quality of life for all of our residents. There are many ways for that to be measured, and we are going to be looking at it from many directions. But overall, that's what we're looking at. And I'll pass it off to Ed.
Yes, thank you, Albert. We will be working with Albert and the city manager's office with respect to validating it, or for lack of better terms, or for ensuring that the product meets our needs and has, if not exceeded what we're looking for. It's relatively simple for us, and if a technology can be used as a tool that can be fairly and impartially utilized, that could help us solve crimes, whereas in the past we would not have been able to. Those are the types of things we're looking for to validate this type of technology for us. Frank Karuba just mentioned a couple of our success stories within several weeks of these cameras being up and running. So we're really just looking to ensure we're actually able to increase our ability to follow up on crimes and arrest individuals responsible for crimes, whether they be vehicle related or other. That's the criteria we're using, and we will get together in incremental times to kind of assess where we're at throughout the pilot.
Thank you.
Aside from out-of-state licenses, can the cameras pick up temporary license tags, or if the license plate number is written on cardboard due to stolen or lost tags?
Pass this to PD.
I think, Frank, you may have an answer to that, but I don't.
I do. Thank you. Good question. It really depends on the product. This specific product, the Flock product, can identify vehicles that have no license plates, paper license plates, temporary license plates, actual license plates, whether from California or out of state. And it can also identify vehicles based upon some distinguishing characteristics. For example, bumper stickers, window stickers, roof racks, or luggage racks on the vehicle.
Thank you.
What is the cost per camera overall? If more cameras get installed, will the cost increase?
To reiterate the slide, the current camera cost is $2,800 per year per camera. I'll pass it off to Ed to add any additional information.
That's about it, Albert, although I would mention that so what the $2,800 covers is the camera it's a lease of a camera for a year.
Mm-hmm.
The installation, if we need to move the camera, they would do it as well under that cost. And in addition, it also covers 1 year's worth of storage for the $2,800 per camera. And if we add cameras, it does not either increase or decrease the cost.
Thank you.
Can you elaborate on which organizations you spoke with early on? How are areas being selected? And only city officials are providing oversight and not an independent third party?
So I can take a bit of this question, and then I think we've answered a bit of the how are areas being selected already, but I'll pass that over to PD in a moment. The organizations that I can at least speak that we've spoken to from the privacy perspective includes over 100 community-based organizations within our city. Kudos to our Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services and Youth Intervention Services teams for helping us connect with on-the-ground community-based organizations and helping inform them about this technology, how it's being used. At the moment, the cameras are just starting use. The stationary ALPR camera, the one at Monterey and Kirtner, installed in April. And so we are just getting information on it. And while we have a few success, or as Frank put it, success stories, we're just getting information on them. And so for now, we are reviewing it and oversighting it internally, but of course, additional audits or oversight can be provided or at the direction of City Council at any time. And I'll pass it over to Ed to add any additional information.
Yeah, so would you mind, I know there were several parts of that question. Could I hear it one more time, please?
Elaborate on which organizations you spoke with early on, how are areas being selected, and only city officials are providing oversight and not an independent third party.
Thank you. So I think Albert spoke to who was spoken to early on. The neighborhoods, which I'm not naming specific neighborhoods at the moment, other than the Monterey and Kirtner that we all know about, because we're still finalizing. Those neighborhoods are being chosen, as I mentioned earlier, based upon areas that are areas known for high firearms related crimes or violent crimes. And then there was a third part to that question. I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Only city officials are providing oversight and not an independent third party.
That is correct.
And I spoke a bit to that, Ed.
And if I can add to that one too, is part of the way the city has structured its digital privacy office is separate from the departments, and then there's a review and oversight function there. So that's the check and balance we've tried to create in the policy structures, and it flows through ITD and the city manager's office. So just to give everyone fair credit in that description is it is created separate to then work with departments and check their work and then publish decisions and privacy review process and data use protocols.
Thank you.
I think we may have already answered this one. How many cameras and where do we plan to install?
I think we've covered that at this point.
How do cameras work in adverse weather? For example, at night or in a storm?
I'll pass this over to PD.
Yes, thank you. Frank, please.
I mean, that's part of the reason. That's a good question. It's part of the reason why we're pilot. So, you know, the vendor has assured that the camera works well in low lighting conditions, and we've been able to verify that. Unfortunately, we haven't had any bad weather. For example, any storms, any rain like that. So we're hoping that many reasons that we have some rain, and this pilot will be going on for a little while, and we'll be able to evaluate whether or not the cameras are truly impervious to the elements and they work in difficult weather conditions.
Thank you. How can an officer verify the accuracy of a photo of a license plate when they are not present at the moment? Example from your presentation commentary of a hit and run accident.
So I will pass this to PD and then I can add some additional color if helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Again, please.
Yeah, so that's a fair question. When an alert happens on the, it sends and in this particular circumstance, we'll speak of a patrol officer on the MDC or the mobile data terminal that they have in their patrol vehicle, an image. It sends them an image of the car, just like you saw in the video, the PowerPoint. It sends them a close-up image of the license plate. And then it also sends them a pinpoint location of where the activation took place. Right now, that part of it's really easy for us because we only have 4 cameras in one intersection. So once that happens, you know, that's historical information because that car's already gone through that intersection and passed the camera. So then the patrol officer, if it sees a vehicle that matches the description, it will then afford the officer opportunity to make sure that the plate in that vehicle and the description that they see on the image on their mobile data terminal matches, the vehicle that they're currently following before any enforcement action takes place. And they're trained on that. They have to confirm that the plate in the vehicle match the alert that they receive from the system.
And I just want to add a bit onto that, because what we've seen in other cities, the issues of something like a incorrect hit or an incorrect read, we see issues come up in two ways. The first one is exactly that. The camera takes a picture of a license plate and it is read incorrectly by the machine. And the way that we fix that is, as Frank has described, you have an officer that can manually read the license plate and confirm that it is what the camera says it was. Additionally, we've seen issues in other areas or in other cities where a list where a vehicle was on was not up to date, and that has led to an issue. And I want to say that our police department, we have constant connection with outside lists such as the stolen vehicle list so that they are always as up to date as possible, and making sure that that risk of any type of inaccurate information is as small as possible. And Frank, please, I know I'm getting into the inner workings of police, so let me know if any of that is off.
No, everything you said is accurate, Albert. That list that exists, or that database, is a California stolen vehicle system database, and it exists absent any ALPR cameras. So it's the responsibility of any investigator or arresting officer that's dealing with a vehicle, once that vehicle has been dealt with in whatever way, shape, or form, to remove that vehicle from the system. So that process and that requirement has been in place long before we considered a fixed ALPR system. So we're just reiterating that during the trainings, that people must be as diligent as possible to make sure that the vehicles are removed from that list once appropriate.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can we sign up for updates as opposed to having to check websites periodically?
So I am posting the same link in the chat. At the bottom of this page, you can scroll down and you will see a public comment form. There, you can provide any thoughts that you have directly, and I will see them. And you can have the option to select if you want to be contacted for future opportunities or comments or projects that have a digital privacy part to them. So please check it out.
I would also add that you can use RSS feature to link your email to the website. So every time we make a change, you might be able to apply it. So you can Google the information RSS as in Romeo, Sierra, Sierra, or you can email us and we'll send you information to how to subscribe.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Will any citizen groups be allowed to audit the use of these cameras beyond the data that the city posts to their transparency site?
Not at this time. And I'll pass it off to PD if there's any more they want to add to that.
I would just say that, echo what you said, Albert. There's no plans for this at the moment. Again, the fixed cameras the projects are really in their infancy, so we're still dealing with a lot of the logistics of those type of questions. And so yeah, so at the moment the answer is no. Always keeping our mind open to making adjustments as we move forward with the project.
Thank you.
What data is stored besides the picture?
So all data that is stored is based on the picture. So the only information that is being collected is what can be inferred or figured out from the picture and the location of the camera that took the picture. So with that, what's stored is the picture itself, what license plate was read, some of the information about the car. So for example, its color, Is it a sedan or is it a van? And what time the picture was taken and where. And PD, if you have anything you'd like to add to that, but I think that about covers.
Great.
I think that covers it sufficiently. Thank you.
What penalties and reparations are offered if a vendor experiences a data breach?
So I will briefly answer this, but this is data breaches and our responses to them are handled with this one and like any other with the support and guidance of our Chief Cybersecurity Officer and our cybersecurity team. And I don't believe our.
Let me take, I'll take this one. So we require all our vendors to comply with cybersecurity standards to make sure that they follow the standards, industry standards to protect the data. And there are penalties related to insurance, that they have to carry insurance, cybersecurity insurance, in case there's a violation or a breach. And depending on the level of access and the sensitivity of the data, we will require certain restrictions to make sure that they are protected and have the ability to compensate.
Thank you. Bear with me on this one, it's a long one. What safeguards, if any, will be in place to prevent law enforcement from using the data and the power of relational database technology to cast a wide net to sift leads for a wide variety of crimes, essentially amounting warrantless search? Also, what safeguards will keep this data out of private for-profit interests that may use it for nefarious purposes, such as blackmail and other things like that? The technology amounts to an automated memory hole. Okay, I think.
And you can see exactly how we are able to use the data in our data usage policy, or we call it a data usage protocol, what can and can't be done with it. And to make sure that it isn't being used for the purposes that we aren't outlining or that we are outlining, we are only sharing it with the select law enforcement agencies that enter an agreement with us. The data is not going outside of that bubble to make sure that it's only being used for the purposes that we have outlined and described. And I'll pass it off to Ed if he'd like to add anything.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So some items that Albert mentioned early on is the system for any individual to use it. They have to, when they do use it, they have to list the reason why they're using it. And specifically, we are making the officers that use the system put a case number in. So it's a very auditable system that we will have the ability to look at each individual inquiry specifically. As you know, the police department has many databases. The databases would treat them all the same way with respect to knowing why a specific individual is looking at a particular record, or in this case, accessing the ALPR database. So it's automated, it's auditable, and we and each individual usage will be cataloged, number one. And then specifically with respect to how do we keep it from ending up in private vendors' hands for nefarious reasons? One of our prohibited usages would be to share this information or sell this information to any entity outside of law enforcement, and that's law enforcement within the state of California on a local level. So it's a prohibited use. It's something that's specifically written into the policy that we're not supposed to do. We do have access, as you know, to lots of data. This could happen with any type of data, but it's something that is written specifically into the policy to help keep from happening.
Good. And to that, we have the policy and we have the audit logs, and we have a person responsible, or in this case, our digital privacy officer, myself, as one of the people on the inside that can make sure that we are following this correctly. On top of if council wants to appoint or direct anyone else to look at this externally. We're going to have that constant monitoring that I will be taking care of and the city is taking very seriously.
Thank you. Will cameras help time to send police as reckless driving is seen?
I'll pass this over to PD.
I did, you know, I heard part of the question. I didn't hear it all. Could you please repeat it?
Will cameras help in real time to send police as reckless driving is seen?
No, the short answer would be no. It would ultimately, it would collect a license plate of a vehicle that was later determined to be reckless driving that may have been involved in a crime, for example. But the act of the reckless driving itself wouldn't be caught on the camera because there's still photos that ultimately come out, you know, that what we see are the still photos of the license plate photograph. So in real time, we wouldn't be alerted to a reckless driver unless a citizen called in to let us know.
Thank you.
And just a quick call out. Really appreciate everyone's questions. It's great to see people engaged and thinking about this just like we are. I want to point out we have a hard stop at 8:30, just so a lot of the great folks here can take care of their families. So we'll continue to go through questions, but know that we have a hard stop at 8:30. Sorry, continue, Kristen.
Thanks. Where is the data stored and what is the level of security? And with any of these questions, let me know if you feel like you've already, you know, covered it.
I think we've covered this one a little bit, and I don't want to get into too many specifics because, you know, detailing where your data is stored and what the security it is can provide too much information that we'd rather not have that could lead to a security risk in its own right. But I will pass it off to Ed and police if they'd like to add additional detail.
I think I'll defer to Judy if she thinks she can add to that, but I agree with what you're saying on the specifics, Albert.
Thank you, Albert and Ed. Yes, the data is stored in a commercial cloud and it is encrypted during transmission and also at rest.
Thank you.
Will a citizen be able to access the ALPR data? For example, if a citizen was a victim of a hit and run?
So I'll pass this off to PD, but this is covered in our in the access that we mentioned in our data usage protocol. I'll pass it off to PD.
Yes, so citizens specifically would not be able to access the database. That is accessible only by trained individuals from the police department as well as individuals from the city for auditing purposes.
Ed, if I could ask though, say for example, someone was a victim of a hit and run, should they talk to an officer, and would the officer then, if it's part of the investigation, take a look, or is there any sense there? I know we're still in the early phases, but.
Yes, thank you, Albert. Yeah, absolutely. If there's an individual victim who's a victim of a hit and run, for example, and they call the police, I mean, I would expect our officers to know that the database is something that they should be looking at. That being said, if an individual gets a hold of us long after the fact, the database can in fact be used by an officer as a tool to follow up on that particular investigation. So indirectly, a citizen will have access by way of the police officer that they speak with.
Thank you.
What is private and what is public data?
Great question. So Private data is the ALPR database itself. It's the pictures, the reads, the information there. And what will be released publicly are these annual usage reports, the transparency portal that you see, I believe Judy added in the chat early on, basically detailing, how much the technology has been used. And additional information can be made accessible in reports or making a public records request, which is always open to that.
How does monitoring of parking infractions work? Does the camera take periodic photos since the usage is not triggered by motion?
I'll pass this off to DOT.
Sure. Thanks again, everybody. I'm Colin Haney with the Department of Transportation. We're currently using automatic license plate readers in 3 ways. One is in our parking garages, as Albert mentioned in his presentation, to let you in and out of the gate. The other is to enforce our residential permit parking program. So basically a parking officer will drive through an RPP zone, residential permit parking zone, and the camera will be looking at the license plates of the vehicles parked in the street and confirming whether or not that license plate has a virtual residential parking permit. And then we, this summer, started using ALPR to enforce time-restricted parking not at meters. So our parking meters already let our parking officers know if they need to be fed. They have a blinking light on them. But on areas where there's a time-restricted parking sign, in other words, that says no parking more than 2 hours or any other amount of time, the parking officer will drive through that area. ALPR will note the license plates of vehicles that are parked on the curb in that area. And when the officer returns after the time restricted amount has lapsed, they'll check the license plates again. It'll alert the officer if a vehicle has been parked there in excess of the legal time limit. And that's how they'll know that they are at least eligible for citation. I can put a couple links to blog posts that we've written about both these uses in the chat, and there's more information there.
Thank you.
The cost is very low relative to other jurisdictions, at least from a few years ago. I have seen costs as high as $100,000 per camera. Are these cameras leased? And if so, how is the city securing that information from the vendor?
I'll just quick reiterate what we've already said, and then I'll pass it to PD to add any more detail. Yes, the cameras are leased at $2,800 per year per camera. And again, this goes to the point of this is a pilot and we are looking to explore this and learn from it. I'll pass it off to PD if they want to add any more to that.
Yeah, I think you covered it. I think we covered what the cost includes. And Frank, actually, if you want to maybe speak to what type of access the vendor actually has, that might be helpful.
In what way do you mean, Ed, as far as access?
In terms of the actual, the fact that they don't review the data.
Yes, that's true. They do not. They only are available to us for maintenance of the cameras, hardware and software upgrades. They help us maintain the transparency portal, and the data that you see on the transparency portal that the public has access to is really the same data vendor has access to, which is, limited to the number of reads during a period of time, the number of searches. They don't have access to our actual data, so they can't see our photographs, our still shots, our license plates, the purpose behind any of our searches or investigations. So it's limited to very cursory information.
Thank you, Frank. And just to make clear, because you said a lot of great information, if I am the ALPR company, can I see the pictures and the license plate reads that the city has?
I can only speak to this specific
Right,
company
right.
for our pilot. The answer is no. I cannot.
Can these be used to deter sideshows?
PD?
The answer to that is yes. The cameras are movable. Ultimately, they're fixed cameras, but they can be moved to specific locations. There are some common areas where sideshows do occur, and it's a method we may choose to employ to help us not only follow up on sideshow related activities, but also to hopefully deter as well. The signs will follow the cameras, and hopefully that will deter the sideshows from occurring. And I would also say that word of mouth will travel fast, and these individuals will realize that the city will have these cameras that ultimately are going to put those people partaking in the sideshows in jeopardy of being caught at a much more rapid rate than what is currently occurring. So I would say the answer is a resounding yes to that.
How often are stolen, swapped, or intentionally obscured license plates involved in the kinds of crimes these cameras are meant to detect?
Pass it off to PD.
Yeah, I would say that's very difficult to quantify. That is a method that is used by criminals, but it's very difficult to quantify how, since we're really just getting started with this program, how often it does occur. But I will say that that is something that has occurred and does occur.
Can you give us more details on where and when the armed robbery occurred and shooting?
So I can briefly speak to this, and then I'll pass it off to PD. So this is the Gilroy Police Department case for with armed bank robbery that happened in July of this year, driving between San Jose and Gilroy and the area. And PD might be able to add a little bit more detail, but that's what we're referring to.
I think with that's about what I'm comfortable talking about. Right. Although I would say that the vehicle was obviously picked up while driving through the Monterey and Kirtner corridor.
For accuracy purposes, the two cases that I was referring to are not that case. But thank you, Albert. That's another success story that we had. The cases that I spoke happened this week. One of them was an armed robbery. The other one was shooting that took place. Beyond that, we can't give any additional information because both of those cases are still currently under investigation.
Thank you.
Can residents request where to install cameras like Story and King, or how will this be determined?
So I will briefly say, if you're looking to ask this question or talk to people, I'd highly recommend talking to your police representative or your local police captain. Pass it off to Ed for more details.
Yes, thank you, Albert. So there's been a number of questions today about how questions could be asked of about, or how information that wants to be shared can be shared. There's been links that have been put out. So yeah, Albert, so I would encourage you to use the links to follow the links to make your requests as to where you'd like to see these cameras installed. That being said, what we're doing to try to determine the areas most in need is a combination of really crunching data that we get from statistical analysis from Deputy Director Tarico's crime analysis unit. We look at historical police data. And then we also use the expertise of our captains, like, for example, Carlos Acosta. He is the Central Division captain, and he knows his area a lot better than I would say a lot of people in the department do. So we will rely on his expertise and others that have expertise in specific areas and specific types of crimes to formulate the best locations for these cameras. I think a lot of the, there's going to be requests for cameras in areas that we just won't be able to get them out to. But I would imagine a lot of the requests are going to come in for areas that we're already very familiar with the fact that that technology can be really well utilized in those areas. So utilize the links that were given for suggestions for us. But a lot of effort and a lot of people go into deciding where these cameras are installed.
Thank you.
We may have covered this one. How exactly will these cameras help with traffic safety?
So I can turn to PD on this, who's already shared a number of success stories, especially with helping with investigations. And I can speak that there's at least some amount of research out there that has shown that in the areas where it's being used, if people are notified of it, then we do see a reduction in certain types of crimes. But that is all what we hear from other places, and part of the pilot is understanding how it impacts our city. I'll pass it off to PD.
Yes, Albert, I would agree with what you're saying. The only thing I would say is really, in order to have a positive effect, is results from arrests that we make, as well as, we're really, the deterrence factor is really a big part of the reason why the signs will be posted near the cameras. And the signs have been known to help deter specific types of crimes or vehicle type infractions. So combination of follow-up on cases that occur and hopeful deterrence that's created by the signs and the word of mouth, as you mentioned. And I think the combination of all three should help decrease the number of incidents we see in specific areas.
Thank you. It looks like Flock Safety is an out-of-state company. Shouldn't we use someone from California?
I'll pass this off to PD.
Yeah, Frank, if you want to maybe cover that, please.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, there are very strict procedures, rules that the city has, and points are allocated for certain vendors, and one point consideration, the city procurement rules are to allow for local companies to be part of any procurement that the city uses. So that is one of our considerations. Also, there's benefits to having a company that has local folks that can bond if there's issues. I can tell you that our experience with Flock so far has been limited. However, it's been very positive in that they've been responsive to us in every way, shape, or form. So, we're going to choose based upon our requirements and all of those procurement rules I mentioned, and there will be a panel of folks that will make that determination, and we will do that fairly and equitably.
If I can add on that one, Kristen, just Frank, you were fuzzing out there a little bit. So the city's procurement process is a competitive one. The most competitive proposal wins. And what Frank was referring to is a local and small business preference. So they do get some additional points in that process, but the process can't be chosen by local alone. They actually have to win the entire procurement. So sorry, Frank, just want to add that just based on your sound there.
I apologize. Can you hear me better now, Rob, in case I have to speak again?
Yeah.
Good.
It would increase public trust if, in addition to listing prohibited ALPR data uses, there were penalties for misuse of that data. What are those penalties? Do we have those penalties?
So I'll start here. Just to say, this misuse or any other misconduct or not following a direction of council order that is addressed up at the council or at that level. I will bring it to Rob or Ed if they want to add anything, but really right now, the look is at the pilot and understanding what and how it's being used, what it's being used for, and reporting out that information so that we can better define and understand what is the right course of action.
Ed, do you want that one or do you want me to take a first stab?
Sure, I can answer that, Rob, from the PD standpoint. Misuse of a database from the police department's perspective will amount to, at minimum, a policy violation and a internal investigation, and it could also amount to a crime. So with all databases, every officer completely understands the confidentiality of what they're dealing with. And because with databases, we have a way of auditing and tracking, they have to put a compelling reason as to why they looked at it each individual time. So that's something that's ingrained in our officers' minds from day one in the academy. And but if there are violations, there are internal as well as criminal remedies.
Yeah, and the only two things I would add to what Ed shared is there's an internal and external part, general for the city as well for others. There's policy 1.7.6, which is information systems and security policy that applies to all city personnel, adding to what Ed said. On the external side, there are provisions and contractual obligations that they have for correct management and the vendor side. And so if there were a contract or anything like that, that cure would go to termination of the contract and as well as damages. So there are various aspects depending what that scenario would be.
Thank you. Flock safety is located in Georgia. Does the Georgia Data Protection Act or the California Data Protection legislation apply to the data?
So Ed, unless you want to jump in, I can add a brief response to this.
I would say if anyone could answer that, it might be Frank if he wants to answer beyond what you have to say.
Okay, I will simply say, and we're not here to give interpretations of law or legal advice, but the way at least I have seen this tends to work is it matters where the data is collected and resides. In this case is California, and moreover, the data is going to be managed by the public sector, or in our case, the city, and not a private company, which is what these laws tend to apply to. But Frank, if you wanted to add anything else, please.
You know what, Albert, you hit that the nail on the head with that. It's where the data resides, and the rules that we follow are the rules of that jurisdiction.
Right.
This next question is, how can the public get more involved before council makes citywide decisions like the installation of these cameras without any input or feedback from residents?
The installation of the cameras. Or I want to make sure I'm reading the question correctly. It sounds like the question is just how the public and residents can get more involved in the process earlier. So I will say two things, and we've talked a little bit about this already. Go to our digital privacy webpage and sign up to get updates and put in the RSS feed. And we are going to continue doing engagement and outreach in person and online to make sure that people are up to date and have the information on not only this, but other technology that we are looking at as a city.
And two other ads, Albert. So we are going to continue to have periodic public events, and Albert has arranged the 5 at community locations so far. The plan for the next ones, if you want to give him feedback on what that, where you would like him, we can take that into account as we plan the next outreach work plan. And then you also have your council members. Council members have received feedback on cameras. They share that with staff, and including the police department, so that they are always representatives of their districts. And please feel free to always tap them as well.
Thank you.
You stated early on that the main goal was to improve traffic, pedestrian safety. However, Mr. Schroeder has repeatedly stated that the cameras will be installed in neighborhoods with high gun violence. Please explain this discrepancy.
So that has to do with specific conversations about those devices, but I'll let Ed provide more context there.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So the first installation we have, the first project, is the pedestrian safety project at Monterey and Kirtner, the cameras that are currently up. That is specific to traffic safety, pedestrian safety in the area. The next project that we are going to install cameras on is specific to the high high crime, high frequency of firearm usage. That's the next pilot project from which we will be placing the ALPR cameras. And so that's what I was referring to, was kind of the next progression of projects which we have yet to actually formally kick off.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So the $2,800 per camera also applies for the parking cameras. And how many cameras, is that true? And how many cameras will be used for that purpose and where?
So just to clarify, that was only for the SJPD cameras, like the ones we talked about at the Monterey and Kirtner intersection, stationary cameras like that. I'll pass it off to Colin or in DOT if he has any information off the top around cost or number of cameras for parking.
Sorry, this is Colin Haney with DOT. I don't have costs on the cameras that are being used on our patrol officers' vehicles, but I will put my email in the chat, and if the person asking wants to follow up with me, I can look into that later.
Thank you, Colin.
Colin, I might be able to help on that one. If I remember correctly, so take this, please not as truth, and do follow up with Colin. There's $6,000 and some change for the installation on the vehicles, the three, and then there's some related costs around that. And for parking locations, I think the contract was 19,000 and some change for the high capacity stations. But Colin again can follow up with more accurate information.
Could the data be requested for civil cases, for example, to prove location of a cheating spouse, to prove that a contractor did not go to a particular site, etc.?
So I'll pass this off to PD in a moment, but I want to make very clear, it's these types of concerns of exactly why we have such strict requirements for who can access the data, which is trained police officers. A major concern is if this data could be requested or used for something against a domestic violence survivor or other victim in attempting to track them. We have strict rules in place, and this goes beyond us, but broader to the state, around making sure that that data can't be accessed for things like the location of a spouse. But I'll pass it off to PD if they want to add more.
I would just say it's a very good question, and I would say that you answered that very well, Albert. That is absolutely something that was a concern of ours, and something we've been assured cannot happen with respect to specifics of information that individuals may be seeking.
I'd just like to add one thing which may put people's minds at ease when using the system. Officers are that whenever making a search, they have to put a case number in. So a search can't be made in this system without a criminal or San Jose Police Department case number associated with it, with very rare exceptions. For example, they're assisting an outside agency, they may use that outside police agency's case number. So that's one of the many safeguards we've put in place to prevent this from happening.
Sorry, Frank, you cut out just a little bit, but
I'm sorry. I just said that we were requiring officers to put a case number in whenever making a search in our system. Without a case number, they cannot make a search. In fact, the system does not allow them to make a search without entering a case number. So they're trained to do that, and that is one of the many safeguards that we have in place.
thank you.
Will SJPD ever consider going unencrypted for transparency?
No. Sorry, PD can answer this question, but
I'm not sure exactly how that relates to our ALPR cameras. I think that's a separate question specific to our radios, but I will pass it over to Judy to determine whether I'm on the right track there.
Thank you, Ed. For the police department radio frequencies, we are required by the Department of Justice to encrypt those radio channels. And that was as of October 2020. It was one of their information bulletin 20-09-CGIS. So if there's personal identifiable information that's being transmitted on those frequencies, they mandated that it's going to be encrypted. So we have to abide by that order.
Thank you. Can there be comment in how this work can connect with the NCRIC data center?
I will pass this to PD around the NCRIC data center.
So I will, Kristen, please ask you to repeat the question. I didn't understand it.
Can there be comment in how this work that we're talking about can connect with the NCRIC data center?
So I will say that NCRIC is Northern California Regional Intelligence Center. That's what that stands for. Frank, I'm going to turn this one over to you to see if this is something you can answer, please.
Sure. We're not sharing information from our cameras with the NCRIC. Like Albert mentioned during his presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, we are only sharing information with other neighboring law enforcement agencies within the state of California. And we are not sharing with any federal agencies, nor are we sharing with any agency that will share with any federal agencies. Because the Northern California Regional Information Center is connected to a federal agency and also has some funding from federal agencies, we will not be sharing data with them.
Thank you.
Can there be any comment about the technology capabilities within stoplight streaming technology that is used for buses to travel through intersections easier?
I'll briefly say here, but just to try and keep things on the topic of the traffic safety cameras. I think that's a whole nother conversation that we can have. And I think there's some great work being done by our Department of Transportation. But Colin, unless you would like to add anything, I think we can focus on the AOPR traffic safety cameras we've been talking about for now.
Yeah, I believe this is referring to the recent announcement that we're working with VTA to pilot I'm not prepared to talk on this, but let me pull from memory, a transit priority system along Monterey corridor for the buses. Basically, similar to the system that we currently use for emergency vehicles. It's a centralized system that uses GPS and software to prioritize vehicles going through intersections. In this case, it would be buses. It wouldn't immediately turn the lights red for the opposing direction, but it would give them priority as they approach the signalized intersection to try to speed them up and improve their on-time performance. But it is not related, as you said, Albert, to the ALPR pilot in any way.
Thank you. I see one more related question. Since you said these cameras primarily are looking at license plates and not people, how are people involved in hit and runs or other crimes identified?
So I'll pass it off to PD that can maybe provide just a little bit of detail about how that information connects.
Yes, thank you, Albert. Correct. The system does not capture the specifics of an individual, just vehicle characteristics and license plates. But that is a way, by utilizing either vehicle characteristics or specifically a license plate, that gives us an avenue for follow-up on an investigation. We look into the plate, try to determine registered owners. We ultimately have our methods of coming to a determination as to whether an individual was involved or not. But often, in addition to being victims of a crime, that victim could either be an eyewitness, as in somebody who actually saw the driver, or there could be other witnesses that are located who saw the driver that in the future or down the line could identify that individual. And so a number of different investigative techniques. But what this technology does, it's a tool to give us a start on a potential lead on a case as opposed to not having any information.
Thank you. Kristen, any other questions in the Q&A?
It doesn't look like we have any others. I did just want to mention also that for anyone that missed any questions along the way, that this is going to be on YouTube right away. So on the City of San Jose YouTube channel, it's going to be available.
Yes. Thank you, Kristen. And I just want to check in with our translators in case there were any questions in your rooms that we haven't heard. Let us know in the chat. Otherwise, let us know if there weren't any. Thank you. And in the Vietnamese room? Just want to make sure.
Bung An or Michi?
No question? Awesome. Thank you. Great. Then I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to engage in this conversation. It's great to see people interested and curious in how our city grows and develops and how we use technology to try and best serve all of us. I'll put my email, and this is the consistent email. If you have any items that you want to talk to me about as the digital privacy officer, digitalprivacy@sanjoseca.gov. You can also go to our website, the link that I've shared in the chat a couple of times, and I will share it one more time just for good measure. Again, just thank you so much for taking the time. I look forward to the next opportunity that we have to talk and share with you any information. And I will pass it off to Rob if you would like to say any last word.
Yeah, it sounds ominous, but
Sorry.
not my last words. But I do want to say thank you to everyone for attending. We still have 27 people on the line, so this is a topic that's important to folks. We'll keep this conversation going as we talked about at the beginning. This is about people and our senses around these technologies, and as we learn more from the pilots, this will be an ongoing process. And so please do reach out to your captains and police officers, to your council members, to your privacy officer here, and we will keep on engaging with you as we go through these privacy uses. But thank you very much to everyone also on from staff. I know it's late and you sacrifice some from your family, but this is an important conversation. I think you all answered things well and showed that.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you. Good night.